things that just make it clean, easy to read. Sometimes we like to go all out and make things really fancy with the scripted letters and titles. But just remember, if someone can't read what you have, even if it's typed beautifully, but with all these different fonts, it's not even, there's not bullets, there's different sizes, it's not big enough for someone to read, you may get lost in the shuffle, or whatever you're trying to put on that piece of paper does not necessarily translate across to the person reviewing it because they're so distracted by all of the things. So keeping it clear, like the previous slide mentioned, editing for clarity, keeping it concise, simple as possible in terms of language. One thing I will also highlight is sometimes we may be in a technical space and we understand our terms, but the person reviewing may not necessarily be able to understand those. So keeping it as simple as possible is always helpful, and that translates from the words that you utilize to the setup on the actual document. Headers, footers, don't let them forget your company's name. I'm always on the bottom. I always put my company name on the bottom of every page. We talked about bullet points, lists, clear schematics, your colors, your branding, keep it consistent. That goes back to the imagery, logos and branding. So if I'm seeing all that, keeping it consistent, especially depending on what you are responding to. And then the actual printing, making sure that you, one, meet the request for specification. Two, use good quality white paper. I know sometimes it's easier to, print at home, or we're going to go for the most cost-effective paper solution. But if anything happens, if it easily tears, I always recommend that, especially printing a lot. If it starts to bleed, if they can't read it, then either way you kind of waste it. I prefer to go to Staples or Office Depot sometimes just to make sure that everything's clear, concise. Sometimes my printer acts up at home, so I'll go there. If that's for a printed response. And one thing we'll remind you of for the city of West Palm Beach, although you would be able to download the RFP package through Demand Star, please be very, very careful in reviewing how you need to submit it at this time. It's going to be a manual submission, so you need to look at how many copies, if it should be stapled, how things should be labeled. That's going to be very important, where you're going to deliver it, by the day, time. Everything I would assume would be in that downtown area, which can be heavily congested. There's accidents, there's the bright line. So you don't want to miss something just because of silly delays. Online, if it's possible, download and review a copy of your submission before finalizing, because whoever's reviewing it may be doing the same thing. So if you download and print it, and then you notice that some of the words are off the page or something happens with the formatting, at least you've seen it. And I would do that for the entire RFP at least once. Try to submit at least 2 working days prior. Systems freeze up. Like for example, at the end of the month, we know that Sunbiz is about to go down for 2 to 3 days because everyone's going to be on there trying to submit their renewals who didn't submit it earlier on. And then save a copy of the submission on a hard drive or external drive. Let's say you have somebody reviewing it, just in case something happens with your computer. We know technology is our friend until it's not. Have a copy somewhere elsewhere from just your computer that you're able to access in the instance where you try to submit it from your computer and you're not able to, something happens, you're able to go to the library somewhere, etc., just to be able to submit it.
Yep. Okay. Should get things done a week early.
Yes.
Get that done, because you never know when Office Depot is going to be running out of the kind of binding that you need to do to respond, or any kind of not the old school binding stuff, but also the new school supplies. Very good. Okay, now here comes the moment. Go for it, Roslyn.
All right. Before we introduce our guest speaker, we just want to see, for this section, does anyone have any questions, comments?
I can't
see. I don't see any raised hand. I had one raised hand before, but it looks like it was lowered.
Oh, wait, I see. I've seen a lot of RFPs organized by tabs. Do they prefer us to print and deliver in 3-ring binder with tab dividers, or what is the best binding to use? They will be very specific. From my experience, in telling you how they want it bound, and whether it's, in my case, it was tabular. It does, you have to use tabs. Tab 1 is this. So just follow their instructions and they'll tell you. I would not deviate from that at all. And that's my experience. I'm sure Michelle will share with us her experience too. What is the font and size you recommend if it's not specified? I think you just went over that, didn't you, Rosalind?
Yes, that would be for the body of text.